Welcome to Healing Minds, Stories of Resiliency and Recovery, a conversation held at the intersection of substance abuse, mental health, and everyday living. Your hosts, Marc and Justin Wolf, bring both professional expertise and personal understanding to the table. So welcome to the conversation. Let's dive in.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Healing Minds, Stories of Resiliency and Recovery. My name is Justin Wolf. As always, I'm joined by our lovely and breathtaking co-host, Marc Regala. Marc, and believe it or not, Marc does not have a filter on today. So how are you doing today, Marc?
Doing wonderful. How about you?
Look at this. Lost for words. That is not something you see often from this great man.
Right? You know, I didn't even know I don't even know what the hell a filter is.
I mean, when you got arms like that, who needs a filter? Look at it. There we go.
But in all seriousness, it's middle of June. We had a great mental health awareness month. NAMI had a great gala last month for their 40th anniversary. NAMI due age. Summer, a week into first is the first day. And we're getting into the warmer months, so exciting things happening, a lot of good things happening. Light out late. Mm-hmm. We can get 2 days in. We can get lifting in the morning, and we can get cardio at night, in the evening. So it's all positive.
It is. It is incredibly positive, and I'm positive by the end of summer, Marc will not own any shirts that have sleeves. So, without further, we are joined by our wonderful co-host. Marc's like, "Yes, this
a good bet.
Life goal. Life goal.
Absolutely.
You're welcome." So, we're joined by Gary today. And Gary, we are thrilled to have you here, sir.
Glad to be here, Justin and Marc. Honored to be here and glad to be able to tell my story and share what I do and help others in any way I can.
Definitely. And I think that's a great point for us to kind of start, especially after Marc was sharing about the gala and everything that's kind of been going on. We're in the summer months here, right? And Gary, this is really the first time that I've had to interact with you and kind of getting to know you. So I think a great launching point for us to be kind of hearing about your story. And
okay.
You are.
Great. Well, I suffer from obsessive-compulsive disorder, and I suffer from the obsessions, the irrational thoughts that keep coming and coming and don't stop. With OCD, for people that don't know what OCD is or familiar with it, there's the obsessions, which are the irrational thoughts that keeps coming and coming and don't stop. And there's the compulsions, which is like washing your hands 50 times or checking the burners or the locks 50 times. I have a tiny bit of the compulsions, but it's mainly the thoughts. It's like an enemy in my brain trying to attack me with irrational thoughts. And that's what I've been fighting for the past 50 years. And when I was actually 13 and from Detroit, I was obsessed with the radio station WKNR, where I had to call on the phone. I had to win prizes. I would call on the phone 30 times a day. I mean, I was totally obsessed with this station to get on the air. And when I was 14, I said, you know what? I want to play baseball, football, basketball, hockey like my other friends. I had enough of WKNR, but my brain can't bring me back to WKNR. And I didn't know how or why, but now I know the OCD started in a very small way at 13. Then at 19 at Michigan State, by the way, at Michigan State, I had a stellar 2.2 GPA.
Breathtaking.
And a 6 on the SAT score, and you get 600 for putting your name on it. So
it's hard for that.
So at Michigan State, I'd be with a group of students or friends, and they'd be talking about a certain subject, and the subject didn't affect me, but the OCD, which I didn't even realize I had at the time, led it to believe it was me, and I would blush out of embarrassment. My face would get bright red, and I was so worried and so concerned that the students or friends would relate to me blushing to what they're talking about, that they would depict me as that person. And that caused me a lot of anxiety, a lot of tension. It was my first real big battle with OCD at the very young age of 19 at Michigan State. And I didn't know what to do or where to turn to because I didn't know how to control it. So very fortunately, I went to the MSU Counseling Center and I met with the Dr. Abels. It was over 50 years ago, but I remember like yesterday. And I said, Dr. Abels, here's a situation. I'd be with a group of students or friends, and they'd be talking about a certain subject, and I would blush out of embarrassment. I'm so afraid that these students or friends are going to relate to me blushing to what they're talking about, that they're going to think I'm that person, and it's causing me a lot of anxiety and tension. What do you recommend I do? And Dr. Abel said, Gary, I promise you, nobody has any idea why you're blushing. You have absolutely nothing to worry about. Feel free to blush until the cows come home. Nothing's going to come out of it. So at that point, I did two extremely important things. I trusted what Dr. Abel said, and I believed in him. And that was crucial at that time. So I went to class the next 3 or 4 days, and I blushed. I continued to blush. But this time I said, so if I blush the rest of my life, who cares? Nobody's going to know why I'm blushing. Let the blushing come. By the 4th or 5th day, the blushing completely subsided and went away. And I had 4, actually took me 5. I was a slow learner. 5 years in Michigan State to partying and enjoying myself and just have a good time. So the objective is like having OCD or a mental health issue is like having a big bully in your brain. The more you respond to it, the more you react to it, the more it bothers you, the harder that bully hits. But on the contrary, the more you walk away from it, the more you ignore it, the more you change your focus, the bully gets no satisfaction out of hitting you and goes away. And that's what happened in that situation. So that was at Michigan State. And then, go ahead. Do you have a question, Mark? Or Justin, do you have a question?
Yeah. So, I mean, as you're kind of talking, I'm like, that's pretty incredible. I mean, the fact that you were able to kind of, learn and figure out, hey, how do I not kind of continue to feed into this, as opposed to kind of letting it just kind of be there, so that you were able to attend to those extra curricular activities that you were so thoroughly enjoying during your collegiate years. Because that's the thing that kind of jumps in my head. It's like, I'm hearing you talk about this. I'm like, wow, like you're in the college setting, and all of a sudden this kind of spurs up. It's unbeknownst to you, kind of like what you're going through and what you're experiencing. And one of the biggest challenges is really trying to find your place socially in a collegiate setting, and kind of feeling like, hey, how do I kind of fit in? How do I kind of navigate this? And then having OCD kind of thrown into the mix can create some challenges. So what did you figure out? Like, what helped you kind of manage and navigate that?
Well, what helped me the most was my believing in Dr. Abel's that if I blush, no matter how much I blush, nobody's going to notice why I'm blushing. So that was really crucial to me, that I believed and trusted him. And then changing the focus, thinking about something else, just automatically, I was a big partier at Michigan State, so partying and enjoying myself and
have a good time.
Yeah. So changing the focus, and then I mean the OCD it attacks me. Even though I'm doing this podcast, I'm getting OCD thoughts. Even at Michigan State, the Tribune, NBC, my own advertising agency, I've always had to deal with it. But I've always been, but I'm able to control it. With everything I had to deal with, I'm able to control it. And then at NBC, later in my career, it hit hard really again. It'd be like you're a goalie and they're taking shots on goal. And these thoughts are the shots. And every once in a while, a thought will get in and it'll really get to you. And so the next thought that really got to me was I was at NBC. I got a huge business deal from a client. Everything was fantastic. This was back in the 80s when AIDS was a big epidemic, and I was ecstatic about this deal. I shook the client's hand. Everything was fantastic until, very unfortunately, 2 weeks later, the client passes away of AIDS. Mm-hmm. And all I could think about was, I had custom calluses on my hand. What if the client had custom calluses on his hand? I'm going to die of AIDS. Typical OCD thought. Any normal person will get thoughts like that. Everybody gets thoughts, irrational thoughts all day long, but they have the ability to dismiss it automatically. Where if you have a mental illness or mental health condition, there's a chemical imbalance in the neurotransmitters, and you can't just automatically dismiss it. You have to do it manually. And this didn't last a day or a week or a month. This was 9 months of total anxiety that I thought I was going to die of AIDS because I shook this client's hand, and I had to I was crying at night. I had to put my happy face on and sell for NBC in the daytime. But I was miserable at night, and it caused me anxiety, tension, sleepless nights. If I did sleep, I'd have nightmares. It was just like a living hell to go through for 9 months. Then finally, I had the chance of my lifetime. I said, I'm never going to miss an opportunity in my lifetime because of my mental illness, because of OCD. So I had a chance. I had an opportunity to start my own advertising agency, leave NBC and start my own business, which I've had for 35 years. And I went for it, Justin. I just said, you know what? I have to do this. I'm not going to miss this opportunity. It's a once in a lifetime. So you know how hard it is to start your own business, period. let alone having to deal with a mental illness at the same time. But I took the biggest risk of my life, and I went for it. And I said, I have to get this OCD under control in 30 days.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I won't last. I have to get this control under right away. Otherwise, I won't last 30 days in business for the 30 years I've been in business. So I finally came up with my own shtick after 9 months that actually worked. I said, I have a mental illness. I can't see. I'm just going to trust my good friend Barry. If Barry says I'm okay, I'm going to go with whatever Barry says, and I'm underlining in and highlighting in. I'm going to change the focus and work 80, 90 hours a week trying to get new clients. So I still got the thoughts all the time about that with IVAs, the irrational thoughts. But every time I got the thought, I stop. I have a mental illness. I can't see. I'm just going to trust my friend Barry. And then I refocused on getting new clients, getting new business, and working 80, 90 hours a week. And that combination of when you change the focus, there's actually PET scans that Dr. Jeffrey Schwartz proves that actually change the chemicals in your brain. And within 3 to 6 weeks, I completely forgot about the age thought. I realized how irrational the thought it was, and I was able to get my own business. At least we were successful for 20 of the 35 years. I won't talk about the last 15. But I was able to get my business going, and I still had to deal with the OCD, but it was at the mid-range level. Every day of my life I had to deal with it. It's not what I call the red zone. And so I was able to deal with that, and I got through that. And then the next, it always tries to, like, when I got rid of the blushing and I beat the age thing, then it tries to come up with the next thing that's going to get to you. It's like a huge enemy in your brain. And so the next thing is I'm going to say some horrible thing to embarrass myself and to put somebody down. Now, that's the last thing in the world I want to do. I love all people and animals. I want the best for everybody. And that's why I volunteer and help and support. And I never did say anything, I never would, but just the thought caused me the same anxiety, the same tension, the same sleepless nights that I was going to say some horrible thing and just call you a horrible name, or just say something that I don't want to say, but just a thought came to me. And very fortunate, there was a great book and audio, especially the audio. I'm dating myself. It was a cassette back on cassette days, called Brain Lock by Dr. Jeffrey Schwartz, specifically for OCD. And that really, I learned to say, he has a 4-step process I have down to 2 steps. It's OCD, it's a mental illness, my brain sending me a false message, and then change the focus. Do another behavior. And when you change the focus, you change the brain. So that's the bridge. Saying it's OCD, it's a mental health. Mental illness, my brain sending me a false message is the bridge. And then changing the focus is what really has got me to be able to control it for the past 35 years.
And so that's incredible. Marc, Go ahead. You got something there.
Well, yeah, no, I was just going to make that comment. I used that analogy about a hockey goalie. And for the audience, Gary and I have spoken too many times now with each other at the various Chicagoland areas, particularly Good Samaritan Hospital in Downers Grove, Illinois. So I've heard him present in front of patients in psychiatric care many, many, many times. And you've used that analogy in those presentations as well. And the thing about it is you might get 30 shots at you, okay, and you let one goal in. You're focused on the one goal that you let in versus the 20 shots that you blocked, because we're the hardest on ourselves.
Right.
And that's just how it is, with the self-talk when it comes to mental health. I mean, my story, with the whole addiction side, it's like, if I get a urge, I feel guilty about it. Why do you get it? It's just a thought. It's just a thought. It's your reaction to the thoughts that really is what matters. You can't sometimes control your thoughts, but sometimes I feel guilty because I might get an urge here and there. I mean, they're very few and far between now, but that's like the best example I can give, or the best analogy I can give, because he's sitting there, blocking shots all day, every day, but he's focused on the one that might get let in, I think that's the people that struggle with addiction, or people struggle with any type of mental health diagnosis. That's what we do. We're our own harshest critic, but like you said, shifting the thought, shifting the focus, it all comes down to self-talk, whether it's what I'm dealing with, you're dealing with. It's a pretty consistent throughout the whole recovery work,
Yes, well, like you said, Margaret, it's not the thoughts. The thoughts mean nothing. You can get thousands of thoughts a day. It's your reaction to the thoughts is the key. So that's what I've learned through Jeffrey Schwartz and Ellis is the thoughts mean nothing. Most people get thoughts that can dismiss it automatically like that. But if you have a mental health condition, it's a little harder. You have to do it manually. And I say to myself, the thoughts mean nothing. It's the reaction to the thought is the key. You can't control the thoughts, but you can control your reaction to it. And so I've seen hundreds of psychologists in my lifetime, including we talked about Albert Ellis, who I have great respect for. The person that helped me the most, that gives me the best knowledge is my associate at work. She has not one. Sorry, Justin. She has not one class in psychology, but she just has great common sense and perception, and she helps me walk me through why it's an irrational thought, why my thinking is irrational. Then I'm using my techniques like changing the focus to control it. The past 35 years.
No, definitely, and I think you say Albert Ellis. I'm like, man, like because I know we had a short conversation, and I think everybody that interacts with Albert, I've always like heard. I'm never had the luxury of having a conversation with that man.
Yeah.
But I know everybody usually has like a story.
Yeah, like I asked. Well, I'll ask you this question, Justin. And Marc knows the answer, so Marc can. What do you? This is from Ellis. This is what Ellis. What is the objective of life? What would you say?
To have a satisfying and fulfilling life that's meaningful and with purpose.
To have a freaking ball. That's what Ellis says. To have. And I'm saying it calmly because we're doing this podcast. I'm not saying it the way he really says it.
Oh, of course not. No, it is. Colorful.
But to have a freaking ball is the objective of life. That's the objective of life. So I have can I give you my little philosophy that I came up with? So I came up with a little spiel. It's D, the most important thing in life, times K equals O. Now, it's not as sophisticated as Einstein's E equals MC squared, but what do you want from a 2.2 Michigan State student? So D for drive, the most important thing in life. I have great respect for Marc, what he's been through, where he's been, and how far he's come. Very few people can do what Marc does, and I'm his biggest fan, and I have great respect for that. So the D for the drive, the persistence, the tenacity to never give up. I told you my success stories today, but I have fallen down thousands of times, and I will continue to fall down, but I never give up. So the drive times K is the knowledge. So the knowledge will be either from your therapist or from Susan, who has helped me, or my friend Barry, or the Brain Lock audio from Jeffrey Schwartz. The drive times the knowledge equals outcome, and that gives you freedom. And that's my little spiel on D times K as well.
That's awesome. And I think you brought up a key point there. You're right, because they talk about, hey, these are some times that I was able to kind of navigate. I figured out how to kind of manage and continue to move forward. And I think that is incredible because it's kind of led you to where you are today.
Right.
And there's been those opportunities where it's kind of like, hey, I kind of fell down, or maybe I got entrapped in these thoughts, and I found myself getting stuck there in that space, like you talked about with the individual who passed away from AIDS.
Right.
And so what have you found, or what advice would you give people who might be struggling with some of these obsessive thoughts as well, who are finding themselves entrapped in these mental prisons that their mind is creating? What would you kind of give them as some keys that could be useful given their situation?
My advice is if you're suffering from OCD, I would love that you can download the audio Brain Lock by Dr. Jeffrey Schwartz, the abridged edition, not the one that's 14 hours, the one that's an hour and 15 minutes, or the book Brain Lock. That helped me tremendously. But what I tell myself is every time I get an irrational thought, it's OCD, some mentals to my brain send me a false message. Like I'm really strong and I'm running the show, not my mental illness. And I'm really strong and really persevering in it. It's just OCD, it's a mental illness sending me a false message. That's the bridge. That's the bridge. And then change the focus. When you change the focus, you change the brain. So volunteer, go on work. Work is one of the best things you can do. Work. Go on Instagram or Facebook. Watch a good movie. Anything you could do. If you're driving a car, change your thoughts. I think about the great times I had with my dog growing up and the great times we had together. Just anything I can do to change the thoughts helps me go for a walk and go do the stairs, do that. And anytime I do that and change the thoughts, it really helps me a lot. So that's what I recommend. It's OCD, it's a mental illness, send me a false message and change the focus.
Definitely. I think that's huge because it's like, hey, like these aren't my thoughts. This isn't what I'm thinking. This is what OCD is thinking, right? We're kind of like separating ourselves a little bit from these thoughts so that we're not looking at the world from what our thoughts are kind of feeding us. We're able to kind of look at it, see it, evaluate, and like you said, change the focus and then kind of continue to move forward.
Right. Absolutely.
And I think there's a lot of power in that, being able to kind of like take that step back. Even though our thoughts might be showing up in our own voice and they may feel as if it is us, it's like, no, like, let me take a step back and really assess this, check the evidence even, and then figure out how do I move forward the way I want to move forward. Like there's a lot of power. And I imagine there's a lot of learning that kind of came in that process of figuring out like, hey, how do I do this?
Right. And I think the drive is the key.
The drive. Okay.
The drive.
Formula.
Yeah. D times K. That's like example in March of 2020, the highlight of the pandemic.
Yeah.
I had nothing to do with the pandemic. I had a hemorrhagic stroke. I couldn't stand. I couldn't walk. I couldn't text. I couldn't dress myself. I was totally debilitated physically, and mentally the OCD was attacking me at the same time. But I am driven beyond belief. And I said, I'm not going to let this get in my way. So I had to deal with both the physical and the mental for the first time in my life. So I learned how to do everything I did before the stroke. In fact, I do 105 flights of stairs a couple times a week as an exercise program. I do the Willis Tower once a year. And I learned, so I'm doing everything I did before the stroke, and I got control of the OCD. So by the drive and determination and the knowledge, finding the right person to talk to, Shirley Ryan having a great rehabilitation knowledge of how to do everything. That's how I overcame that and did that.
Yeah, because I think there's a lot of power in figuring out how do you take care of yourself, right? How do you kind of refill your tank? Because it sounds like this can kind of take a lot out of you in this process and navigate.
Yeah, it does. It really does. But you can definitely do it. With the drive and ambition, you can definitely do it.
No, what I was going to say. Well, first of all, when Gary does his little presentation in the hospitals, he's got little stress balls that are little brains. They look like a brain, and they got his formula on them that it passes out to sometimes.
I got one right here. I'll even show you. I happen to have one with me.
Yeah.
What's that shirt say there, Marc?
Yeah.
There you go.
My favorite
shirt. $20 later, Gary.
Suffer to tougher. My favorite shirt. My favorite. But this is it's D times K. It's a little stress ball. D times K equals O. So it's just, if you're having a stress, it's a stress ball, and it drive times knowledge, outcome. Drive times knowledge equals outcome, and that's my big spiel that I came up with.
That's awesome.
And the other thing is too we talk about exercise, we talk about diet. His exercise is pretty strict in the fact 5 flights of stairs, 2-3 times a week. He was doing that pre-stroke,
right?
But he did that after stroke. I mean, he had to learn how to walk again. Okay, and he's doing 105 flights of stairs 2 to 3 times a week. I mean, I got so much respect for this gentleman. Diet-wise, he's very regimented with his diet. When I say I've never spoken with somebody in the hospital that doesn't mention diet and exercise as part of their recovery.
I've been vegan for 35 years. Vegan, whole foods, plant-based diet. Most days.
Yeah, but for the audience, I just want to go back to what he's talking about here with the stroke, because for somebody that deals with OCD, and you got this global health pandemic, you got the social distancing, and you're worried about this, how fatal this virus is, okay, and you got all that going on in your mind, and I'm sure that was going on in your mind, okay.
Yeah.
Then you have this stroke, and some of your coping mechanisms, like the exercise, was taken away from you, and you said from the neck down, right? I mean, you couldn't move your arms, you couldn't move your legs.
I could move my arms and legs. I just couldn't walk. I was able.
I mean, for to deal with the health pandemic, and then have to deal with the stroke, and have to learn how to walk again, with everything that's going on in this world at that particular time, and to have that drive, and you're using your knowledge, I mean, I cannot, and I always interject when he speaks at the hospital at this time because I I don't think you realize the strength the general person realizes the strength that takes.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. I have
Absolutely.
respect for you as well. What you've overcome, and you come through. Great respect for you.
Well, and the thing about it is, Justin, is life throws you curveballs. Like just because you get into recovery or like you get into sobriety or like in my case or whatever, life is just not going to be happening. I mean, he's in his recovery and keeping his back, and all of a sudden he has the stroke. But I was speaking at the hospital uh, when I had my staph infection, and I was out for a little bit, and then I came back to speak at the hospitals, and Gary spoke with me. Remember the hose coming out of my arm and that little,
Right. Remember that? Yeah, that was a real tough time for you.
and I couldn't exercise, which is a key coping mechanism for me. I was still doing my speaking with this hose coming out of my arm and this little contraption around my waist. And I mean, I was dealing with depression and I was in tremendous pain and I couldn't take pain pills because obviously I'm an opiate addict in recovery and I just did not want to go down that path or even open up that Pandora's box. So I was battling. And I remember when I was battling, all I kept thinking about was his story and what he overcome as my motivation. And when I did start speaking again and I explained to him what happened, he would, he'd bend my ear a little bit and give me some, positive, thoughts and positive encouragement and so forth. And that was critical because, I mean, that happened in February of 2023. And I was pretty out of commission and out of the gym until probably about June 2023. And dealing with a lot of pain, going to the wound clinic and things like that. But I was still, like I said, trying to help others and speaking at the hospital. But his story provided, huge inspiration to me, and his, positive, feedback and positive thoughts when we would speak together helped me out too. So I want to give him some credit.
Thank you. Makes me feel good that I could help you too.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
That's great.
And I got to get this in too. Okay. And just to kind of give you an idea of how committed this man is to helping people, when it comes to speaking at the hospitals. It was after that, after my shoulder. I don't know how long ago it was, how long it was after my shoulder. It was, I think it was like late fall. It was cooler out. I remember that. He comes in and he's asking me questions, and I can tell he's in pain. And I was sitting in the room before, I think no, I met you downstairs by the elevator, and you kind of explained to me on the way up what was going on. He was riding his bike on Lakeshore Drive. It was a real windy day. I believe it was all day. And, he had a fall on his bike, and I hurt his leg really, really bad. At the point that we're riding up the elevator, he's asking me questions about, do I think his leg is broken, all that stuff. And I'm like, well, dude, if you think your leg is broke, the last thing you're doing is, is coming here and speaking at the hospital. You should go to urgent care or something like that. He goes, no. He goes, I'm scheduled to speak at 8 o'clock. I'm going to speak at 8 o'clock. There's a room full of patients that need to hear my story. So we got in the room. He did his presentation. I did my presentation. He opened it up to questions. And then he was sitting down for like an hour. Leg kind of really got a little sore and a little stiff. And I had to help him to his car that night, to get him downstairs. But I mean, he thought he really injured his leg or broke his leg. Thank God it wasn't anything really, really, really serious, except it was banged up pretty good. But he was fully committed to speaking to that room full of patients at Good Samaritan Hospital that night. That's the drive, that this man has. So I got to give him credit there too. I'll never forget that story and that night because that really opened up my eyes too. The commitment trying to help.
Great guy. You helped me so much. Mark helped me to the car. He was there for me, and just a wonderful guy. It's
Wow.
great.
Oh, that was just a. I mean,
that was your chance to eat some more Mike and I. So I was kind of getting in those two.
Appreciate it, man. You was looking out, Mark. What a gentleman.
Yeah.
Chivalry never died on that
I
side.
just had one more thing about Ellis, if I can, real fast.
Go
I
for
guess you asked questions, but Ellis's ABC theory. Justin,
Yeah.
are you familiar with his ABC theory at all?
Yes.
Yeah. So A is the activating event times B is your belief system equals C, the consequences. So it's never the event by itself that causes you to be upset. It's always the event times your belief system, or your thoughts and your reaction to your thoughts, that causes C, your feelings, anxiety, tension. So, for example, let's say you're on a crowded bus and somebody steps on your toe really hard, and you're really mad. Say, can't this person watch out where they're walking? They just stepped on my toe and I'm in tremendous pain. You turn around and you see the person's blind, then you have a whole different reaction. You feel sorry for the person. So it's never the event that causes it. It's always the event times your view of it that causes C, your feelings. So that else is ABC theory that I really have a lot of respect for.
Definitely. No, that's a wonderful example too, because it kind of highlights it beautifully there.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh. So Gary, Marc, I feel like it's been a wonderful conversation. And Gary, I think you've had some great wisdom to kind of share, and your story is incredible. And so appreciate you taking the time to kind of join us on this podcast. And before we wrap things up, I want to kind of open up to you guys if there's any closing thoughts that either of you have.
No, I just appreciate the opportunity, and I'm here to help anybody that I can with that I've controlled it. If I can give back and help other people, that gives me a high and gives me a great feeling. Gets my adrenaline going. So I'm just here to help anybody I can. So I appreciate the opportunity, Justin and Marc, to be with you guys today.
Thank you.
Marc. You've been doing this for a long time, Justin. We mentioned earlier about the gala this May. He was honored for 10 years of service of NAMI.
That's awesome.
Giving back to the community. So give a shout out, because that's a heck of an accomplishment there.
That's great. That's great. That's incredible. And I think that's the awesome thing, Gary. It's like, hey, it's not just talk. It's like you're walking it, you're living it. And I'm just amazed you got your own little stress balls with your theory on it. Like, that's awesome, man. So
I'll get you one, Justin. I'll get one to Marc to give to you.
All right.
I'll make sure you have one. And another thing, having my business for 35 years, I was actually able to do it, control it. And I'm a big believer in medication, 100%, but I was able to control without medication while I was doing my business, because I was so obsessed with my business that it was a great distraction for me. But then when not that I wanted to, but I had to retire because we lost enough clients, then I got on medication, which helped me a lot, and I'm a big believer in it. But while I was so distracted with my business, I was able to do without the medication. And then after I retired, and I hate to say that we're retired, I'm trying to give back in other ways. Yeah. Then I went on medication, and I'm a big believer in it, and it was a big help to me. So I'm a big believer in anything you can use to fight this.
Definitely. Yeah. And the more tools in your tool chest, the better equipped you are for whatever comes your way.
Exactly.
So awesome. Well, I appreciate everybody tuning in to these episodes here and listening to the wisdom that our guests have to share. We are here on the 1st and the 15th. These episodes drop. If anybody has any topics, feedback, or information you'd like to share, we can be reached at our email address that is at the bottom there. So until our next episode, you all, thank you for listening, and we will catch you on the next one. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today on Healing Minds, Stories of Resiliency and Recovery. If you're on the journey to find guidance and insights, subscribe now wherever you find your podcasts. Healing Minds, Stories of Resiliency and Recovery is an educational resource, not a substitute for medical or therapeutic advice. The opinions expressed by the hosts and their guests are not necessarily those of NAMI DuPage. Go to namidupage.org/podcast for links to past episodes, show notes, and to submit a question or topic ideas for a future episode. Until next time, be well.